fast as fuck, boy. I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am.
Hey everyone, Whalefish here, age 5. In this video, I'm gonna be talking about this aircraft. Or well, more specifically, these aircraft. This is the Italian F-104S, and this is also the F-104S, except it's the Turkish Air Force version. Both of these aircraft are exactly the same plane, except one of them is a premium vehicle that will set you back $70 US. Everything I'm about to tell you about this aircraft in this video is going to apply to both of these planes. But the focus of this video is going to be on the premium version, because that's the version that costs real world money, and of course the question is it worth that real world money? To answer that question, let's first take a look at the actual aircraft itself. The F-104S TAF is a rank 7 premium vehicle that sits at the Italian tech tree at a battle rating of 11.0. And in a vacuum, this aircraft is quite honestly completely bonkers. As you might have come to expect from the F-104 platform, the F-104S is extremely fast, has extremely good climb rate, and also has very good energy retention. But of course, that comes at the cost of dogfight capability, as this jet just isn't that maneuverable. Right? Well, not really. You see, the F-104 can actually pull very high Gs as long as you are going fast. The issue for most F-104s is just that staying fast whilst pulling those high Gs is usually not possible. The F-104S, however, is an exception to this rule, and that's because the F-104S gets a much more powerful engine than prior F-104s. And as a result, this jet is actually very capable of keeping its speed up whilst you're pulling very high G-forces, which essentially means that this plane is deceptively maneuverable despite being based on the F-104 platform. Does this mean it's good at dogfighting? No, absolutely not. It's still an F-104. If you get slow in this jet, you are going to get raw dogged by literally every other aircraft around its battle rating. And basically what that means is that you have to play this jet in a very particular way. You want to keep your energy up at all times. That means you either have to stay very fast or you have to climb a lot so that you have a lot of potential energy which you can turn into speed at a moment's notice. Essentially what I'm saying is the F-104S is the king of boom and zoom. But of course having an airframe that is good at booming zooming, that's nice, that's great, but at 11.0 you also want it to have good weapons. And in the case of the F-104S, it's a little interesting. When we open up the weapons tab, you'll see that you can carry up to 6 AIM-9Ps. Now, given the fact that these AIM-9Ps are 20G rear aspect IR missiles, they are not the best missiles you can find at 11.0. But that said, I think these missiles are fine. They're not very special, but they're still very much functional missiles, and you can still get plenty of kills whilst using these, as long as you use them correctly. Besides the AIM-9Ps, the F-104S can also carry a set of radar missiles. To be more specific, you can carry 2 of these AIM-7Es, and the AIM-7E, as you can see, is actually quite a decent missile. Fairly good range, 25 Gs of overload, fairly big warhead, but there is a bit of a problem. Actually, there's 2 problems. For one, the F-104S's radar is just kinda, well, shit. I mean, it exists, it works, you can get radar missile kills with this radar, as you can see in the background, but it's also not necessarily a nice experience. However, that's not necessarily my main issue with these missiles. The second problem I have with carrying the AIM-7E is that you can't carry the internally mounted cannon whilst you're carrying these missiles. And in my opinion, that's just an awful trade-off, especially in this very chaotic 16 versus 16 player matchmaker. Carrying a gun that can get you 6 or 7 kills is way more important than carrying 2 unreliable radar missiles. I want to be clear, the AIM-7E is not a terrible missile, and if you want to carry it, go ahead. It's actually quite nice to use from time to time, but I don't think it's the meta weapon. I'd carry the gun if you really want to do extremely well in this jet. Especially if you're going into an up tier, I think the gun is a lot more valuable than the extra AIM-7E. And actually, now that I've mentioned the term up tier, I think it's time that we start talking about whether or not this aircraft is worth the money. You see, I've been fairly positive about the F-104S so far. I've called it the king of boom and zoom, I've said it has fairly okay weapons. Overall, this is a pretty nice plane, which must mean that it's worth $70 US, right? No. No, this plane is not worth $70 US. In fact, I don't even think it's worth $35 US. Obviously, that's because this plane already exists in the tech tree. You can literally get this plane for free by just playing Italy, and in my mind, that automatically disqualifies it from being worth literally any money at all. You see, something like the F-4S or the MiG-23ML is at least somewhat different from their tech tree counterparts. The F-104S TAF is genuinely just a carbon copy. But let's say that we don't care about the plane not being unique. Let's say we're just looking for a good grinder for Italy. From that perspective, is the F-104S TAF worth $70 US? No, it's still not. And the reason for that is really simple. I already mentioned that the F-104S is the king of boom and zoom. But you have to keep in mind that it's not good at literally anything else, so if you want to do well in this jet, you have to play it in the boom and zoom playstyle. And that's a problem for the aircraft given the current matchmaker, because being an 11.0 aircraft means that this jet is constantly being up-tiered, which means that you'll be fighting aircraft like the F-4S that carry a very good radar as well as AM-7Fs, and those AM-7Fs are going to completely destroy you if you try to climb for more than just a second. Basically, any aircraft in an up tier is capable of completely stopping you from gaining altitude, which means that they're stopping you from playing the F-104S like you should. If you can't get altitude in the F-104S, you can't properly boom and zoom, and if you can't properly boom and zoom, then, well, you're kind of shit out of luck. And that's my main issue with the F-104S. Being up-tiered is never fun, but being up-tiered in the F-104S is particularly awful. And actually, it makes me a bit sad, because there's such a massive contrast between an up-tier and a down-tier in the F-104S, because if you get down-tiered in this plane, you're going to have a fantastic time. This is one of the best jets that you can use in a 10.0 to 11.0 match, because if you can play this jet like you want it to and play it like a true boom and zoomer, this jet is virtually untouchable. So maybe if the matchmaker changes in the future to get a lot more down tiers, this jet actually becomes worth something again, but as it stands right now, I just wouldn't buy it. But let's say that you already did buy it, then what do? Well, for one, you beat yourself up over the head because you shouldn't have bought this plane in the first place, but hey, now you're here, now you have it, how should you be playing this jet given the fact that you're getting mostly up tiers? Well, let's look at some gameplay. The match you're watching right now is me playing the F-104S in a full up tier to 12.0. And as you can tell, I have not even bothered to gain any altitude at all. Instead, I'm hugging the deck and I'm trying to rush towards the closest enemy base. Why? Because I'm going to bomb that base. And although bombing bases in ARB is a bit of an elbozo strat, it is at least a lot more consistent in terms of grinding than trying to get air kills in the F-104S in a full up tier. In any case, there's an F-4S heading right towards me, and because I'm carrying the gun, I am allowed to basically get some shots into him, which of course will kill. Oh, no, it does nothing, because of course the Vulcan is kind of a poopy gun. F-14 launches a missile at me, I make sure it hits the ground instead of me, and then I continue rushing towards that first base right in front of me. Now here's where I get a bit lucky, because the F-4S that I just shot ends up touching some grass. In the meantime, I dive down, drop my bombs, and then right after I've dropped them, my friendly takes the base instead. It'd be like that sometimes. Regardless though, I've got the first air-to-air kill in the bag, and now I'm on my way to get 4 more. And yes, I know, I just called this plane bad, and now I'm showing you an ace game, but you'll see why I'm showing you this game specifically in just a bit, because essentially every kill I'm going to get is going to be just like this MiG-21 right here. It's not that I'm in a better plane, it's not that I'm a better pilot, but rather it's just that I happen to show up at the right time in the right place. Essentially what I'm saying is I'm getting lucky. If at any point in time a person on the enemy team had decided that they were going to focus on me, I would have died basically instantly, because there just isn't all that much I can do against most of the aircraft in this match. But instead, like I said, I get lucky and I manage to get plenty of gun kills. except it's not entirely luck-based, because there is some strategy to flying the F-104S in a full up tier. Essentially what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use this aircraft like a boom and zoomer, except without having to go vertical, and that basically means I'm constantly keeping my speed up and just picking off targets of opportunity like that FG-1 right there. However, what's perhaps more important to keep in mind is that you should just never ever dogfight in the F-104S. In fact, if you make a pass on someone and you end up missing with your gun, don't even turn around for them to try to finish them off. Instead, just keep going and go find yourself a next target. For example, that MiG-29 is burning right now, and of course I get the kill in this case, but if I didn't, I still wouldn't have turned around to go finish him off. Because by the time that I would have turned around to finish off that MiG-29, the other MiG-29 would have showed up and clapped my cheeks real hard. Instead, I extended away, and as you can see, I only start turning around once I am in the clear. And then there's this MiG-29, and he's going to try to go head on, but also not really. I don't know what he does, but essentially he ends up losing one of his wings. And that means that I've just gotten myself my 5th kill of this game. Now, like I said, getting air kills in the F-104S is not something that you'll be doing consistently. In fact, this is the only ace game that I got in the F-104S. The only reason I'm showing this gameplay in particular is because it's not as boring to watch as me bombing one base, killing one enemy, and then getting shot down by a radar missile. But perhaps more importantly, I think that this game just showcases extremely well how lucky you have to get in order to get 5 of those kills. For one, every plane that I shot down just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, but more importantly, even when I didn't get shot by that FG-1, I didn't actually end up dying, which allowed me to get 2 more kills at the end of the match. And as you can see, right now I'm just cruising back to base because I'm out of cannon ammo, and more importantly, my airframe has been damaged. By the time that I land, this match is going to be over, but I'm still going to show a little bit more of this gameplay because I quite frankly just need a bit of filler whilst I talk. And the reason I want to talk a little bit more is because there's one thing that I still want to point out about the gameplay you just watched. You probably already noticed that every kill that I got in this game was by using the Vulcan. I didn't get a single kill by using the IR missiles. And honestly, I challenge you to do the same thing, because getting kills with the Vulcan is a lot more reliable than trying to get kills with the AIM-9Ps in a 12.0 match. The AIM-9P is not a bad missile, but because it's rear aspect only, the amount of times that you're going to be able to use this missile is quite limited. So essentially, you should really be trying to get most of your kills with your Vulcan, and then only use the AIM-9P if you happen to come across a target of opportunity. And with that said, I guess that kind of concludes my review of the F-104S. In summary, this is one of the worst premiums that you can buy in the game, because although the F-104S TAF is actually quite a nice plane on paper, the problem is just that it currently gets constantly updated to 12.0, and at those battle ratings, this jet is just completely, and I mean completely, utterly useless. As a result, this jet is just extremely not fun to fly, to the point where I feel bad for you if you spent $70 US on this jet. So please, if you want to spend $70 US on War Thunder, buy something like the F-4S, don't buy this. Maybe in the future this aircraft could actually be interesting, perhaps it gets moved back down to 10.7 or perhaps 11.0 starts seeing constant down tiers, but as it stands right now, as of today, don't buy this. Like seriously, don't buy this. Unless, well, there's one last thing that I should maybe mention about the F-104S. I know that most of you watching this channel probably don't care about War Thunder Sim, but just in case you're one of the 3 people who still play simulator battles, then you might actually find the F-104S quite interesting. And that's because the F-104S gets a battle rating of 10.3 in Sim. And given the fact that you can essentially force yourself into a down tier while you're playing sim battles, this jet is extremely cracked at 10.3. Quite honestly, if you want to have some fun in sim by playing something that's completely busted, then, well, maybe the F-104S is something that piques your interest. In any case, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.